Listen, this is not just a story about music. This is a story about a man who was born without a chance and still broke through. About a boy from a poor neighborhood in Detroit where poverty, violence, and constant defeat were all around. About how pain, despair, and lack of faith from others can be turned into a force that changes the world. Eminem is more than a rapper. He is a symbol of the struggle with oneself, a symbol that even when it seems that life is given up, you can always get up and move on. This story will have victories and falls, glory and darkness, moments when the world applauded standing, and moments when he was left alone with his demons. This will be a story about pain that became music, about defeats that turned into victories, and about a person who managed to do the impossible. Because in the end, this story is not just about him. It's also about you and me, about the fact that a dream is worth fighting for, even if the whole world says no. Imagine Detroit in the 90s. Gray streets, abandoned buildings, the smell of cheap food and cigarette smoke. It's here that young Marshall Mathers tries to make his way through a crowd that doesn't believe in him from the start. A white kid in a world where rap was a blackstreet culture. He was laughed at. He was booed at the beat. People told him bluntly, "You'll never be able to do this. Rap isn't for you." He felt that cold gaze every day. It wasn't easy at home either. His mother struggled with her own problems. The family lived in poverty, and he grew up in a constant struggle for survival. School brought nothing but bullying and beatings. And the only place where he found meaning was his notebook. The very lines he wrote at night, sometimes even under a lamp in a dark room, became a breath of air for him. But the pressure only increased with each passing day. He tried to send his tapes to labels, but the answers were the same: no. One of his biggest setbacks came when, after several years of trying, he realized that music wasn't even making enough money, and he had responsibilities at home, a young daughter, Haley, to feed. It was a blow that nearly broke him. Then the dark thoughts began. He sank into depression, lost faith in himself. There were attempts to end his life. In those moments, he stood on the edge of the abyss. It seemed that the dream had died before it began to live. But here came the first turning point in his life. Yes, everyone rejected him. Yes, he was humiliated. But every rejection, every booing, every night in tears turned into a new line in a notebook. His texts became tougher, more frank, more honest. And this is what began to distinguish him from others. Because he understood, failures are not the end. They are just the beginning of new solutions. We began to overcome obstacles that seemed insurmountable. Our home often resembled a war, poverty, quarrels, the feeling that the whole world was against us. At school, Eminem did not find support. He was a stranger among his peers. Low grades, bullying, constant fights. He did not fit into any framework, and when he tried, he was pushed away even more. Teachers did not believe in him. Classmates laughed. Even society considered him superfluous. But it was there that the fire was born that would later burn away all doubts. The desire to prove that he was capable of more. No. At that time, he discovered rap. For some, it was just music, but for him, it was a chance to survive. Rhymes became his weapon, his only way to express himself. He spent hours writing in old notebooks, rhyming words that others didn't even notice. Rap became his voice that the world refused to hear. On the streets of Detroit, he began to participate in freestyles, and each victory there was a small proof for him that he could rise. But there was always a feeling of failure nearby. Poverty did not let go. Everything at home was falling apart, and he felt stuck between two worlds, the world of dreams and the world of reality. But he didn't give up, and the more he was humiliated, the harder he fought. Every fall became a rise for him, every no a challenge. Rap was his lifeline, and he clung to it as if it were his last chance. In the darkness, he began to create his story, the story of a boy who had nothing but words. And words became his strength. The first steps forward were like tiny victories that he was tearing out of the world with his teeth. Eminem began recording his first mixtapes, raw, uneven, but honest to the bone. These records were passed around, and suddenly he had his first local fans, those who saw something real in him. He began performing in small clubs in Detroit. There were no bright lights or thousands of people, just a stuffy room, smoke, the screams of a crowd of 30 people standing so close that you could feel their breath. And when he went on stage, he felt that he was finally alive. This was his territory, his arena, where he proved that words could hit harder than fists. But as soon as the club lights went out, he would return to a completely different reality. Home was a place of constant struggle, arguments with Kim, shouting, insults, sometimes even physical assault. Alcohol only added fuel to the fire, and every night he felt everything he had tried to build crack. On stage, he was a warrior, but at home, a man drowning in his own life. His heart was torn between dream and chaos, between love and hate, between who he was and who he wanted to be. These two realities clashed with such force in him that sometimes he himself did not understand how he could endure it. But it was this pain that made his music even more truthful. His lyrics became a diary, a cry of the soul, in which every word was about the life he lived here and now. And the harder it became at home, the stronger he went on stage. The great transformation began with one meeting that changed everything. Eminem was exhausted, broken, but not broken. His mixtapes began to reach people outside of Detroit, and someone from the label handed the tape to the legendary Dr. Dre. When he first heard the voice, sharp and at the same time unique, he couldn't believe it. Who is this white guy who reads like he was born for this? And then the meeting happened, which became a turning point in his fate. In the studio, when they first worked together, it felt like an explosion. The words were flying, the beats were hitting the heart, and between them was born a chemistry that cannot be faked. Slim Shady LP became a new era. Suddenly, from a guy who played in small clubs, he turned into a sensation. Songs sounded on every radio, fans shouted his name, but along with popularity came scandals. His lyrics were tough, frank, sometimes shocking. He was not afraid to talk about violence, drugs, betrayal, his demons, and the world was divided into those who called him a genius and those who demanded that he be banned. Lawsuits, censorship, constant criticism from all sides. This became part of his new reality. He was no longer just an artist. He was a symbol of rebellion, the voice of a generation that did not want to live by the rules. But behind the stage and fame, there was another truth. His family was falling apart before his eyes. Quarrels with Kim escalated into public scandals, and the divorce led to endless lawsuits. He would leave the studio, where he and Dre were making music that changed the industry, and find himself in an empty house, where instead of love there was only silence and court documents. He lived in two worlds, one filled with music, energy, and fame, the other cold and desolate, in which he was left alone with his pain. This contrast tore him in two. Every performance on stage was an explosion, but after it he felt only fatigue and emptiness. Alcohol and pills became a temporary way out, but every day they only pulled him deeper down. His life turned into a battlefield, with the outside world attacking him for his lyrics, and with the inside, where he fought for peace of mind and family. But it was this struggle that made his songs even stronger. He didn't hide the pain, the hatred, or the love he still carried inside. And the world listened. Every news feed screamed his name. Every new song became a hit. It was a great transformation, from an unknown guy from Detroit to a global icon, from a local voice to a symbol of an entire era. But inside him, this transformation cost him too much. The world finally heard his voice. The Marshall Mathers LP and the Eminem show exploded like fireworks. Millions of copies sold, stadiums buzzing, fans screaming his name, and radio stations playing his songs nonstop. He became a symbol of a new generation, the voice of those who grew up among. But with greatness came burden. Inside, he felt an emptiness that no amount of fame could fill. Drugs and pills became a way to survive, to escape the pain he carried in his heart. The internal struggle intensified. The breakup of his family, quarrels with Kim, lawsuits for published texts, public insults. All this turned his life into a battlefield. In the studio, he was energy, fire, and charisma. And after concerts, he returned to empty rooms, where there were only documents and memories of failures. The situation was becoming critical. He barely slept, living on adrenaline from performances and pills at night, trying to drown out anxiety and fear. It felt like the world had conquered him, but he was losing himself. Depression and addiction crept in unnoticed, and even when he stood on stage in front of tens of thousands of people, inside he felt alone, broken, and helpless. But it was through this crisis that his true strength was born. The pain turned into lyrics that hit harder than any fist. He realized that his life, with all its ups and downs, could inspire others. His story ceased to be just a personal tragedy. It became universal because everyone who listened to him felt the truth experienced with him. And it was this moment that showed that a global breakthrough is not just about the stage and sales. It is the ability to survive your own chaos and use it to create something that changes the lives of others. He became a symbol of resilience. A person who went through hell, did not break, and was able to bring his voice to the world. After all the ups and downs, there came a time when EMINEM found himself on the edge. The world saw him as a superstar, but inside he felt empty. Drugs, alcohol, depression, all this almost destroyed his life. Every day seemed like a fight not with the public, but with himself, under the pressure of fame, scandals, and personal problems. Recovery began slowly. He sought help, went through rehab, and began to listen to his inner voice again, not the noise around him. And that's when new music was born, Relapse and Wreck. She was it. Returning to the stage after the fall was not an instant triumph. There was a lot of doubt, fear, criticism. But each performance proved he did not just survive, he became stronger. His fans saw not only an artist, but a person who was able to overcome his own demons and emerge from the darkness even more authentic. Each concert, each new song was like a sign of victory over oneself, proof that strength is born not only from talent, but also from. And it was this stage that showed that true greatness is not in the number of albums sold or awards, but in the ability to rise after a fall, to turn one's own problems into music that changes the lives of others. He became a symbol of hope for all who have lost faith in themselves. Even after the deepest fall, one can be reborn, relative. Today, EMINEM is more than just a rapper. He is a symbol of struggle, strength, and resilience. His life has become a story that the whole world knows, from a poor boy from Detroit who suffered from bullying and poverty, to an artist whose voice was heard by millions. But he does not forget where he came from, and this is what makes his legacy so powerful. He continues to create, remaining relevant even after decades. New albums, performances, collaborations. He shows that talent and work never get old if there is truth and dedication in the heart. But his story is not only about the stage and the music industry. It is about the ability to turn pain and failures into strength, about the courage to be honest with yourself and the world, about the fact that falling does not mean the end. His legacy inspires new generations, those who grew up amidst hardship, those who thought the world was against them, those who experienced personal tragedy and lost faith. EMINEM proves that true success is not just fame and money, but the ability to overcome yourself, not be afraid of the truth, and turn your life into art that touches others. EMINEM's story leaves a clear message. Even if the whole world says no, you can say yes to yourself. Even if it seemed that the fall was irreversible, you can always get up. His journey is proof that pain can become fuel, weakness, inspiration, and fear, the impetus for action. This story is not just about Eminem. It's about each of us, about the ability to change, fight, and move forward, despite the circumstances. And if you hear his voice, know that behind each of his songs there is a life lesson, a lesson in courage, honesty, and resilience. Because true success is not about avoiding falls, but about being able to get up, move forward, and create your own path, despite everything.